In this video, you will learn how to protect yourself from hazardous material dangers in your workplace. You'll learn about the many types of chemicals, how they can enter your body, and the risks they pose. You'll learn where to find information on how to prevent exposure and what to do if you are exposed. And you'll learn where to find information on first aid or on how to put out chemical fires. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, established its GHS hazard communication standard to ensure that you are trained and understand the chemical dangers in your workplace. This standard ensures that information about these products and how to use them safely will be presented clearly on labels and made available through 16-section safety data sheets, or SDSs. So what substances are covered, and exactly what are chemicals anyway? Chemical products exist in three forms: solids, liquids, and gases. Examples of solids are rubber, metals, plastics, or minerals. Solids can be present in the air in smoke or in fumes from welding or cutting, or as dust from grinding or sanding. Liquids are substances that can be poured, like acids, oils, or water. They can be tiny airborne particles in the form of mist, sprays, or vapors. Gases are fluids that do not have a definite shape or volume, such as oxygen, nitrogen, or acetylene. Gases can be contained in compressed gas cylinders. Carbon monoxide is a very toxic gas that can be found in vehicle exhaust and other forms of smoke. There are three ways chemicals can enter the body: through contact, inhalation, and ingestion. Contact, or absorption, occurs when a chemical enters the body through the skin. The best defense against this type of exposure is using gloves, proper clothing, and personal protective equipment. Inhalation is when chemicals are breathed in through the lungs. Good ventilation and a respirator are the best methods to prevent exposure by inhalation. But be sure you are trained, approved, and fitted before using a respirator to ensure it will properly protect you. Ingestion is when chemicals are taken in through the mouth, often without our even knowing it. Chemicals in the form of dust or mist can settle and accumulate on surfaces. If we eat or smoke in a contaminated area, or if we've neglected to wash our hands or faces, we could unintentionally ingest chemicals into our mouths and bodies. Chemicals can be categorized as a physical hazard or a health hazard. Examples of physical hazards are chemicals that can cause a physical threat. Perhaps they can catch fire easily, or they react when combined with other elements, even water or air, or they have the potential to explode in response to shock, pressure, or high temperature. Examples of health hazards are chemicals that damage your health, for example, harming your liver, pancreas, or lungs. This damage can be either acute or chronic. Acute health hazards cause damage right away, while chronic health hazards cause damage over a period of time. Acute damage can be caused by corrosives that burn your skin or irritants that cause allergic reactions, or poisons that can cause sleepiness, headaches, sickness, or even death. Chronic or long-term health hazards can come from carcinogens, which cause cancer, or chemicals that cause birth defects or that interfere with normal body functions. Your first step in making sure that you and your coworkers stay safe when working with hazardous chemicals is to recognize the danger. You can't count on your sense of smell or taste, or whether you can see or feel the danger. Some dangerous chemicals have no odor. Many others are invisible or don't cause any immediate pain when you touch them. Yet they can make you sick over time. Since you can't rely on your senses to keep you safe, you have to learn about the chemicals you use by looking at labels and understanding safety data sheets. Both the label for a product and the safety data sheet will have basically the same precautionary statements, but both are important for different reasons. The label is handy because it is always attached to the product, and the safety data sheet is useful because it has additional details and can answer more of your questions. First, let's talk about labels. Labels must be in English, although other languages may be added. It will identify each chemical by name and often include a code or batch number. The label will have a signal word that tells you the level of risk. This word will be either danger or warning. Danger is used for more severe hazards, and warning is used for less severe hazards. If a product has more than one hazard, the word will be chosen based on the worst of them. Labels will also have symbols or pictograms. These are pictures that tell you instantly about the risks for that chemical. Each pictogram is in the shape of a red square set on a point. Inside this red frame is a black symbol on a white background. There are 8 different symbols, depending on the kind of hazard. If a chemical has more than one hazard, the label will show all appropriate pictograms. Here are the symbols and generally what they stand for. Health hazard, for chemicals that can hurt your health, either immediately or over the long term. Flame, for chemicals that can catch on fire, emit flammable gases, or heat up. Exclamation mark, for irritants to your skin, eyes, or breathing, and for chemicals that have harmful or narcotic effects. Gas cylinder, for gases under pressure. Corrosion, for burns, eye damage, and corrosion to metals. Exploding bomb, for explosives, self-reactives, and organic peroxides. These are unstable compounds that may decompose and burn rapidly or explosively, even at relatively low temperatures. Flame over circle, for oxidizers. These are chemicals that may not catch fire themselves, but that can react with other substances to make them more likely to catch fire. Environment, for chemicals that can damage plants, fish, and streams when they get released into the environment. Skull and crossbones, for poisonous substances that can cause serious health damage or death. When you see a pictogram, it's like an alarm going off. You need to pay attention to it. Be sure to ask your supervisor if you're not sure about the meaning of any of these symbols. This part of the label contains the hazard statements, which describe in words the nature and degree of the danger. All of the hazards of this substance will be included. An example of a hazard statement might be fatal if swallowed, or causes severe skin burns. And over here you will see the precautionary statements, which tell you the steps you should take to avoid getting hurt or causing damage when handling or storing this chemical. Precautionary statements may tell you about prevention, such as use personal protective equipment as required. They may tell you how to respond to exposure, such as get immediate medical attention. They may describe proper storage, such as store in a well-ventilated place. Or they may describe proper methods of disposal. When there are similar precautionary statements, the one providing the most protective information will be included on the label. This is where you can learn what to do in case of fire and how to give first aid when someone is exposed to this chemical. Examples of emergency first aid might be to call the poison center, remove contaminated clothing, or rinse with water. And finally, you will see the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer, distributor, or importer of this chemical. This is here so you can contact the source if you have additional questions. Labels are important and should appear on every chemical you use. Never use a product from a secondary unlabeled container, even if you think you know what it is. The only exception to this rule is a chemical that you personally have transferred from a labeled container into an unlabeled container, such as a bucket, for your immediate use. It must never leave your possession. Otherwise, label it properly. Now let's talk about safety data sheets, or SDSs. These are provided by the manufacturer, distributor, or importer. It's important to know where these are kept in your workplace. Ask your supervisor if you're not sure. Safety data sheets have the same product identifiers and precautionary statements as appear on labels. Plus, they go into more detail on the substance and its hazards. There are 16 sections on an SDS. We'll run through these sections quickly, but you should spend some time with the SDSs at your particular workplace. It's important that you understand the valuable information they contain. Section 1, Identification, has the product identifier and manufacturer or distributor information. Section 2, Hazards Identification, includes signal words, hazard statements, pictograms, and precautionary statements, similar to what we saw on the labels. These elements help keep you safe. Look at them closely before beginning to work with any product. Section 3, Composition, includes the chemical names and common names of substances or mixtures, plus other technical information, such as hazard cutoff levels. Section 4, First Aid, describes the most important symptoms and immediate medical care required if someone is hurt by contact with the chemical, or if some other dangerous situation has occurred. Section 5, Firefighting Measures, lists suitable extinguishing techniques and precautions for firefighters in the case of a fire or explosion. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures, contains emergency procedures, protective equipment, and proper methods of containment and cleanup if there's a spill. Section 7, Handling and Storage, lists precautions for safe handling and storage, including what substances should not be stored or used together because they might react in dangerous ways. You should never mix chemicals with anything, not even water, unless you've been specifically trained to do so. Section 8, Exposure Controls Personal Protection, contains information about exposure limits and ways to protect yourself, including personal protective equipment or PPE. PPE may include eye protection, hand and body protection, or breathing protection. Make sure you are using all the necessary PPE before you start work with any chemical. Section 9, Physical and Chemical Properties, lists the chemical's characteristics such as color, odor, melting point and freezing point, and density. If the substance does not appear to match these properties when you begin to work with it, something is wrong and you should stop right away and get help. Section 10, Stability and Reactivity, lists the possibility of hazardous reactions under different conditions, such as temperature extremes, static electricity, vibrations, or other environmental factors. It's important to avoid any conditions that could cause the substance to become unstable and increase the danger of working with it. Section 11, Toxicological Information, includes how you might get exposed and the effects and symptoms of exposure. This helps you protect yourself and also tells you what it would feel like if you accidentally took in some of the chemical. Section 12, Ecological Information, describes the impact to the air and waterways if the chemical is accidentally released into the environment. Section 13, Disposal Considerations, tells you whether the chemical can be recycled or reclaimed, and appropriate containers and precautions for landfill or incineration activities. Section 14, Transport Information, includes transport hazard classes and guidance on shipping in bulk. Section 15, Regulatory Information, provides national or regional safety, health, or environmental regulations. And Section 16, Other Information, provides more details, such as the date of preparation of the SDS or last revision and changes from previous versions. Now let's talk about emergencies. If there is an accidental leak or spill or release of dangerous gases, always think safety first. Move quickly but purposefully. Panicking or rushing can make bad conditions even worse. Remember your training and refer to labels or SDSs if you can. Depending on the situation, you may need to shut operations down. If appropriate and safe to do so, remove affected individuals from the area immediately and apply first aid. Inform your supervisor or manager and assist first responders, especially by sharing your knowledge of what just happened. Cleanup of the spill may require experts and specialized equipment. Do not return to the area until it is safe to do so. Working with hazardous materials requires special care. Awareness is your best protection. Remain alert for warning signs. Look for any unusual change in a chemical's color or characteristics. Take seriously any physical reactions you might be having. Nausea, headache, dizziness, or lightheadedness could mean chemical exposure. If you are working at a customer's location and run into anything that you're not sure of or that you believe could be potentially hazardous, request information from the building owner or manager. If you are monitoring your work area, watch for indicator readings that are outside normal ranges. If any of your working conditions or the products you're using seem strange or different, notify your supervisor immediately. Your employer has a responsibility to keep your workplace as safe as possible, but this is your responsibility too. Take your training seriously. Know how to read labels and safety data sheets. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, and know the right emergency procedures for the chemicals you use. If you have any questions, ask. Safety is always the first priority, and the most important element in guaranteeing your safety and the safety of your coworkers is you. Thank you, and stay safe.